I really do think we ought to all remember that is true. The state of Louisiana really could sit down sanely and fix this, but they need to do a constitutional convention and change the tax structure. What's happening has to happen in Louisiana because our leaders are not very smart. We hide stuff, appropriations, in the Constitution, in essence. So when these cut times come around, there are very few things we can cut. It's insane, and it's a way to keep government growing. And that's what we do here. For people who don't know, in Louisiana, we grow government, cotton, soybeans, and sugar cane.
I have quoted you, I'll bet 50 times in the last, when you first said that, in Louisiana, you said cotton, sugar cane, soybeans, and government.
That's what we do. And by the way, we're one of 2 states in America that cannot do that anymore. The other one is West Virginia. What are we fixing to do? We're going to do it some more.
Well, let me ask you, what's most likely to pass? What kind of increases? Is a sales tax increase likely? What are lawmakers going to do? Are they going to bow up at all, Elliott?
And how much juice does John Bell have to get what he wants?
Yeah, and look, that's important. I want everybody to know this going in. A lot of what you will see, both in the special session that'll last 3 weeks that starts on the 14th of this month, and then in the regular session, although it's not fiscal, we can't do a lot of things there. What you're going to see is an awful lot of scariness, a lot of scare tactics, by the way, let me read you all this. This is in the Morning Advocate. I'm quoting, Governor John Bell Edwards' administration is preparing a spending plan in the coming weeks that will include draconian cuts to government services. That's not a quote. That's the newspaper's news article calling it that. So you're going to find a lot of people who are saying, we've got to cut. When it comes down to the end of this, the House version must be matched up with the Senate version. They'll go into a conference committee. The conference committee will be run by a gentleman by the name of John Alario. He is the president of the Senate.
A Democrat, right?
A Democrat. He calls himself a Republican. He is not. He's been a Democrat for 50-some-odd years, in truth. Anybody who thinks that this thing is going to come out any way other than the way John Alario and basically the governor and Jay Darden want it, just don't understand.
What does a sales tax increase do to our state, Elliott? I know you're dying to talk about that.
Well, look, it kills us. We're in a place, and by the way, it's just as bad for existing residents when we raise the income tax, which is what a John Bell Edwards administration really wants to do. Let's remember this. In Monroe, the sales tax is 9.9%. There and several other places in Louisiana. When you add the 1% they're talking about, they're going to have an 11% sales tax. In those places, we will finally be number 1 in something. We will have America's highest sales taxes. In Shreveport, it will be just about 10%. It is absolutely nuttiness. And remember, we really have grown government 3 times population growth in revenue, 5 times population growth in expenses, spending, since 2004.
How will car dealers and people that sell big-ticket items, how will they be able to stay in business when folks are paying 10% right out of the gate to buy your big-ticket item?
Well, it's going to drive sales down. There's no question about that. But people will buy an automobile. So I don't think that's where the real push is going to be here.
Won't we go to Dallas, though?
Well, I don't know, because in Dallas it's 8.5% already. I don't know if you go over there and go through the hassle of trying to get it registered for the difference there. But the bigger point is, the place that sales tax really gets you is that you have to pay it on everything that is a basic service. I mean, they'll take a couple of food items out of it, but that's about it. It is the most offensive to the most people tax that there is. Far more offensive is income taxes, which chases people out of Louisiana. We've lost 600,000 since 1980. That one is particularly going to hurt Shreveport. And let's remember through all of this, Shreveport goes into this discussion by far the most highly taxed group of people in Louisiana, by multiples. So anything that happens is going to hurt us particularly.
You know, Mr. Elliott, Mike Johnson last week, he made the point that basically you made, there's plenty you can cut. And what the point he made was specifically all these consultant contracts and stuff. What can you tell us about that that'll make it understandable?
It's simple. it is Louisiana political patronage. Look, let's remember this. Louisiana governors have some 30,000 people they can put in jobs. I mean, they absolutely can hire all over the place. Another way of gauging patronage is how many friends of governors and friends of legislators get consulting contracts that are therefore buried within some huge departmental budget and never looked at. If you did a constitutional convention, every bit of that gets exposed, is laid bare for people not like legislators alone to look at, people like us. Every one of those categories is closely, carefully protected by elected officials. So when they start doing this draconian stuff is coming, we ought to look right back at them and say, you folks are the ones that do this, and then you bury it where we can't see it.
We're running out of time.
About 30 seconds.
What do you want folks to do? Is this the time we really need to start calling our lawmakers now? Is it critical?
Yes, and before you do that, be sure you do a little reading. Look, I don't want to pick on the lawmakers without picking on the people that aren't keeping up with what is happening to Louisiana. If they were, we wouldn't have to tell them to call the legislators. They would call them, and they would know what they're talking about when they call them.